You never forget the sound of a dog barking like that. It wasn't just loud. It was urgent, like a siren from something ancient, primal. Marcus Hale had trained K9 dogs for over 2 decades, and this bark made every hair on his neck stand up. "Eco, what is it, boy?" he called out, stepping into the living room of his sister's house. The retired German Shepherd was planted firmly in front of a pink toy chest, his body rigid, ears pinned back, tail stiff. He growled low, then barked again, teeth flashing in the soft afternoon light spilling through the window. Inside the house, everything had been warm, ordinary, safe. A Sunday visit, coffee brewing. His 6-year-old niece, Sadie, had been playing with dolls on the carpet just moments earlier. Now she was hiding behind the couch, hands clamped over her ears. "Jenny," Marcus called out. "You hear that?" His sister Jenny came in from the kitchen with a dish rag in her hand. "Oh, come on, Eco. It's just a toy box," she said, forcing a chuckle. "Maybe there's a mouse inside or something." But Marcus didn't laugh. Neither did Eco. His old partner had sniffed out bombs in Afghan desert villages, tracked armed suspects through the thickest Carolina woods, and once found a kidnapped girl trapped beneath a floorboard. When Eco barked like that, it meant one thing: danger. Jenny's fiancé, Cal, leaned into the room from the hallway, eyebrows raised. "Is your dog always this jumpy off duty?" Marcus didn't answer. His eyes were still on Eco. Something was wrong. He knelt beside the toy chest and gently laid a hand on Eco's back. The dog twitched under his touch, but didn't move away. His snout pointed straight at the box like a gun barrel. Marcus slowly opened the lid. Inside, a tangle of stuffed animals and plastic dolls. A mermaid, a one-eyed bear, a pink bunny with a chewed-up ear. Everything looked normal, but Eco wouldn't stop growling. Marcus reached in, lifted the toys out one by one. At the very bottom, tucked inside the hollow body of a large teddy bear, something metallic glinted. He paused. Inside the bear's belly, wrapped in gauze and taped shut, was a tiny black object, no larger than a stick of gum, a lens, a blinking red light. It was a hidden camera, and it was recording. That night, Marcus sat alone on the porch swing with Eco at his feet. The sun was down. Crickets chirped. His mind raced. Who put a surveillance camera inside a child's toy? Jenny said she didn't know. Claimed she'd bought the stuffed bear at a garage sale a few weeks back. Maybe some creepy guy used it for, like, pranks or something, she offered with a shaky smile. But even she didn't believe that. Cal said maybe it was a scammer. People do weird stuff with electronics now. Hackers, who knows? But Marcus knew better. Hidden cameras in toy bears didn't end up in homes by accident. He tucked the camera in an envelope and mailed it overnight to a friend in Atlanta, a retired cyber crimes tech who owed him a favor. "If there's anything on it," Marcus had said, "I need to know." He didn't sleep that night. Neither did Eco. The dog paced the hallway between Sadie's room and the guest room where Marcus slept. At 3:17 a.m., Eco began scratching again. This time, not at the toy chest, but at the wall beside Sadie's bed. Sadie was whimpering in her sleep. Tiny fists balled at her sides. Marcus entered quietly. Eco was frozen, growling under his breath at the drywall. Something was buried here, too. He was sure of it. The next morning, Marcus made pancakes. Sadie came into the kitchen wearing a long-sleeve shirt, even though it was 82 degrees outside. "Hey, sweet pea," Marcus said gently. "Aren't you warm in that?" She shrugged. "Mommy says I get cold easy." Jenny walked in seconds later, still in pajamas, and froze. Sadie looked down, her tiny hands gripping the hem of her shirt. Marcus' heart twisted. He glanced at Eco, who sat beside Sadie's chair, unmoving, staring into the hallway. There was a truth here no one wanted to say out loud. If stories like this matter to you, where K9 heroes protect the innocent and uncover hidden truths, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Your support helps us share the courage of animals like Eco. That afternoon, Marcus got the call. "It's real," the voice on the other end said. "And it's bad." "What's on it?" Marcus asked, holding the phone with both hands. "Marcus, it's footage. A lot of it. The camera's been recording for at least 2 months. Same room, same angle, different dates. And what's in the footage?" A pause. Emotional abuse, some physical, a man's voice, threats, slapping. One clip shows the girl hiding under the bed, another Liliana, another him grabbing her arm hard enough to leave marks. He keeps the light off in most of them, tries not to be seen, but in one, there's a reflection in the dresser mirror. Marcus swallowed. "Do you recognize him?" he asked. "I'm sending it over. You tell me." The video file arrived by secure link just after 7 p.m. Marcus clicked it. Eco immediately stood up, growling low. The video showed a small bedroom, Sadie's room. The angle pointed directly at the toy chest and bed. The date stamp read 3 weeks ago. At first, it was quiet. Then came footsteps. A man entered, tall, slim build, wearing a dark long-sleeve shirt. He spoke low, almost a whisper. "You know the rules, don't you?" he said to someone off camera. "You talk, and I take your toys. You scream, and I take something else." A whimper, a soft "no." He stepped closer. A hand reached down, grabbed a doll, and tossed it across the room. He turned slightly, just enough for a flash of silver at his wrist. A bracelet. Then he shifted again, revealing his face in the mirror behind him. Marcus froze. Eco barked. It was Cal. Jenny was washing dishes when Marcus walked into the kitchen, laptop in hand. "Where's Cal?" he asked. She blinked. "Why?" "He said he was going to Home Depot." Marcus turned the laptop toward her. The video played. Jenny dropped the plate she was holding. It shattered across the tile floor. "No," she whispered. "That's not. He wouldn't. He loves her." "Jenny, look at his face. Look at the mirror." Her knees gave out. She sank to the floor, hands over her mouth, shaking. "How long has this been happening?" Marcus asked, voice low and furious. "I didn't know," she sobbed. "I swear to God, Marcus, I didn't know." Eco padded into the room, eyes locked on the doorway. Sadie peeked in from behind the hallway wall. Her voice was small. "Uncle Marcus," she whispered. He turned to her slowly. He said, "If I told anyone, he'd hurt Eco. But I think Eco's stronger." The video didn't lie. Cal's face in the mirror was clear enough to ruin lives. Or maybe just reveal what had already been ruined. Marcus didn't say a word as he sat in his truck that night, engine idling in the driveway. He couldn't shake the sound of Sadie's voice, small, scared, apologetic. As if any of this was her fault. Eco sat in the passenger seat, eyes locked on the front door, alert, ready. Jenny hadn't stopped crying for an hour. She'd begged Marcus not to go to the police yet. "Let me talk to him. Let me make him turn himself in," she said, clinging to the last scraps of a future that would never exist. But Marcus knew the truth. Men like Cal don't confess. They hide. They deny. They run. And worse, they blame the child. Still, Marcus gave her the night. Just one night. He needed time to think. And Eco, he could tell, needed time to protect. The dog wouldn't leave Sadie's side. That was the only thing that made Marcus feel like she was safe for now. The next morning, Cal was gone. Jenny found a short note on the kitchen counter. I need to think. Don't listen to Marcus. He's always hated me. Marcus took a photo of it, folded the paper, and slid it into a Ziploc bag. He checked Cal's closet. Half his clothes were missing. So were his phone and his laptop. I'll call it in, Marcus told Jenny. He's running. Jenny sat down slowly at the kitchen table, eyes bloodshot, lips trembling. Do you think he meant to hurt her? Maybe it just got out of hand. Marcus shot her a look so sharp it made her flinch. She's 6, he said. Nothing gets out of hand with a 6-year-old. Not unless there's something wrong with you. Jenny buried her face in her hands. I should have seen it. I should have known. Marcus didn't answer. The truth was she had seen it. Maybe not the bruises. Maybe not the video, but the signs had been there. Sadie's quiet fear. The way she never made eye contact with Cal. The way she'd flinch when someone raised their voice. But like too many people, Jenny had chosen comfort over confrontation. And now her daughter was carrying the weight of her silence. That afternoon, Marcus took Eco for a walk down the trail behind the neighborhood. It was something they used to do when Marcus was home between cases. Walk, train, bond. Eco didn't need much direction anymore. The dog had instincts deeper than muscle memory. He sensed things. As they walked, Marcus' phone buzzed. It was Leo, the tech guy from Atlanta. I dug deeper, he said. There's more than just footage. What do you mean? The camera wasn't just recording. It was transmitting real time. Marcus stopped walking. You saying someone was watching her live? Yep. And get this, it was syncing through a dummy server in Portland. Someone went through a lot of trouble to cover their tracks. Not your average creep with a spy cam. Marcus' stomach turned. Was it Cal? Still digging. But it sure looks like someone knew how to set this up very precisely. If Cal didn't do it himself, he hired someone who did. Marcus hung up, pulse hammering. Eco whined softly beside him. He looked back toward the house. Sadie was in there, sleeping, trusting. Someone had broadcast her abuse. That wasn't just cruelty. That was predatory. And if someone had been watching, there was a chance they were still watching. That night, Marcus set up his own cameras. One in Sadie's room, another outside by the driveway, and a third facing the backyard. He connected them to his phone, encrypted the feed, and placed motion-triggered alerts on each zone. Jenny didn't protest. She barely spoke. She seemed hollow now, caught between horror and shame. And though Marcus felt sorry for her, his focus had shifted. All that mattered was Sadie. She barely spoke either, but her eyes followed Eco like a lifeline. The dog didn't leave her side, even when she went to the bathroom. And every time the doorbell rang or the wind shook the trees outside, she froze, waiting, watching. That night, after Jenny went to bed, Marcus sat on the floor outside Sadie's door with Eco beside him. Rifle on the wall, coffee in hand. He wasn't about to let anyone near that little girl. Not again. At 2:03 a.m., Eco stood up and growled. Marcus snapped awake instantly. What is it? He whispered. Eco's ears were rigid, his body tense. His eyes were locked on the window across the hallway facing the backyard. Marcus reached for his phone, pulled up the camera feed. Nothing. Then suddenly, motion detected. A shadow moved near the back fence. Marcus jumped to his feet and grabbed the rifle. He crept to the back door, unlocked it silently, and stepped outside barefoot. The cold earth bit into his soles. Eco stayed beside him, silent, but poised. Another flicker on the camera, a figure, tall, hooded. Marcus raised the scope. Don't move, he growled into the dark. I've got a bead on you and a dog trained to rip out your kneecap." The figure froze, then turned and ran. Marcus didn't fire. He wasn't here to kill. He was here to protect. He and Iko chased the man to the fence, but by the time they reached it, the intruder had vanished into the woods beyond. Marcus exhaled, chest heaving. It wasn't a robbery. It was a warning. Someone had come to see if the camera was still there. The next morning, Marcus filed the footage with local law enforcement and requested a formal investigation. He gave them the video, the timestamp, the footage of Cal, the man in the backyard. An officer named Carter, a young but sharp detective, agreed to open a child endangerment case. "We'll get social services involved immediately," he said. "She'll be placed in emergency protective care." Marcus shook his head. "She's staying with me. I'm her legal uncle, and she's not leaving Iko." "You don't have guardianship." "I'll get it." "And your sister?" Marcus glanced at Jenny, who sat quietly on the couch, staring at the floor. "She's not in a state to fight me, and frankly, she shouldn't." By noon, the house was crawling with investigators. Sadie clung to Iko the entire time. When the officers asked her questions, she whispered her answers into the dog's ear. Iko didn't move, didn't blink, just listened. And somehow, that gave her the strength. She told them about the rules, the punishments, the things Cal said when Jenny wasn't home, the red marks on her arms, the threats. "He said if I told anyone," she whispered, "he'd make Iko disappear." One of the officers glanced at Marcus, stunned. But Marcus didn't blink. He was beyond stunned. He was at war. That evening, as the sun dipped low and the house emptied out, Sadie curled up beside Iko on the couch. Her little hand rested on his neck. Marcus sat nearby, watching her draw with colored pencils. She was sketching something. A dog, tall, strong, standing between a little girl and a shadowy figure with red eyes. "Iko." Sadie looked up at Marcus. "He never barked like that before," she said softly. Marcus smiled gently. "That's because he never had to be this brave before." She nodded. "He saved me, didn't he?" "Yes," Marcus said. "He did." The house was quieter now, but the silence didn't bring peace. Jenny had gone to stay at her friend's place after Child Protective Services insisted on a psychological evaluation. Marcus hadn't objected. She needed space to reckon with her guilt. And frankly, Sadie was calmer without her there. The living room had become a makeshift headquarters. Laptops, hard drives, printed screenshots from the hidden camera footage. Marcus had converted his niece's trauma into evidence, case files, timelines. Sadie, for her part, never asked for her mom. She only asked for Iko. "Uncle Marcus," she said quietly one morning, sliding her drawing across the table. "Can I tell the police through Iko again?" Marcus nodded. "Anytime, sweetheart." He looked down at her sketch. It was Iko again, standing between Sadie and what looked like a shadowy man in a hoodie. Above the shadow, she'd written a single word in blocky crayon letters, "Lies." That hit hard because the more Marcus reviewed the footage, the more obvious it became. Cal hadn't just been abusive. He'd manipulated everything around Sadie to keep her silent. In one clip, Cal stood in the corner of her room, speaking so gently you might mistake it for kindness. But the words were venom. "You don't want your mom to be sad, do you? If you cry, I'll know you're lying. Iko won't protect you forever." He spoke like he was coaching her through a script, rehearsed, repetitive, patient, in the most sinister way. Marcus had seen predators before, but this was something colder. He took the footage to Detective Carter that afternoon. Carter looked younger than usual, with dark circles under his eyes and 2 empty coffee cups on his desk. He was taking this case seriously. Marcus had to give him that. Carter pressed play on one of the clips. It showed Cal standing in Sadie's room in the middle of the night, bathed in the blue glow of her nightlight. "She's sleeping?" Carter asked. "She's pretending to," Marcus replied. "You can tell by her breathing. She's watching him from under the blanket." Cal bent over the toy chest in the video, reaching into it, not for a toy, but to adjust the hidden camera's angle. "You see that?" Marcus pointed. "That's not accidental. He's repositioning it." Carter squinted. "What's that in the mirror?" They both leaned closer. On the dresser mirror in the background, a reflection. Cal's face, calm, focused, a glint of satisfaction in his eyes. "Got him," Carter said, sitting back. "That's enough to issue a statewide alert." Marcus nodded. "We need to bring him in before he disappears completely." That night, Marcus stayed up reviewing more clips. Eco lay beside him on the living room floor, ears flicking every time a faint sound came from the hallway. But Marcus couldn't stop watching. Clip after clip, week after week, the psychological damage on screen unfolded slowly. Sadie's posture changed. Her eyes grew darker, her voice quieter. She stopped playing with her dolls and started hiding them. Each video was a record of stolen innocence. And yet, something was bothering Marcus. Something didn't fit. If Cal had installed the camera, who else knew about it? Because in one clip, timestamped from nearly 2 months ago, Cal wasn't in the room, but someone else was. A figure with gloves, taller, leaner, moving quickly. Marcus froze the frame and zoomed in. It wasn't Cal. And whoever this was, he knew exactly where the camera was hidden. Pulled it out, checked it, and carefully tucked it back into the teddy bear. He wore a hoodie, no face, but the gloves, the watch. Marcus snapped a photo of the paused screen and sent it to Leo in Atlanta. "New player, need an ID. Urgent." The reply came an hour later. "Leo, that's not Cal. That's Thomas McKay." Marcus blinked. McKay. The name hit like a punch. He'd done time. Registered sex offender. Caught once, but rumored to have dozens of victims. Cal had testified at his hearing years ago. Marcus pulled up public records. Cal and McKay had worked at the same auto body shop for a while. After the hearing, they were still connected, which meant this wasn't just abuse. This was organized grooming, and Sadie was almost lost in the middle of it. He didn't sleep. The next morning, Marcus handed the photo to Detective Carter. "McKay," he said. "Cal's contact. He's the one who installed the tech. Probably watched it, too." Carter's face hardened. "This just escalated to federal jurisdiction. We'll contact the FBI's Crimes Against Children Task Force." "Good," Marcus replied. "Because if the feds don't catch him, I will." By the time CPS arrived for another follow-up, Sadie was sitting on the floor in the hallway with Eco, tracing his paw with her finger. "Do I have to go with them?" she whispered when Marcus approached. "No, baby," he said. "You're staying here with me. And Eco always." Later that day, the front doorbell rang. Marcus checked the camera feed. Jenny. She looked thinner, paler, her eyes swollen from crying. He opened the door halfway. She didn't step forward. "I just wanted to see her." Marcus exhaled. "You can't come in right now." "I know," she said. "But I didn't know, Marcus. I swear." "I believe you," he said. "But that doesn't change what happened." Tears welled up in her eyes. "You're mad at me." "No, I'm protecting her." "That's what you were supposed to do." That stung. She didn't reply. "Do you have a lawyer yet?" Marcus asked gently. She nodded. "Then focus on healing, not fighting." Jenny looked past him into the house. Eco stood behind Marcus, watching. Jenny whispered, "Tell her I love her." Marcus nodded once, but he didn't promise. That evening, while Sadie napped with Eco curled beside her on the couch, Marcus stepped out onto the porch with his laptop. He opened the last video clip, one that Leo had decrypted from a corrupted file. It was dated 2 days before Marcus found the camera. It showed Sadie asleep in bed. The stuffed bear propped on a shelf nearby. The camera was angled strangely, almost like it had fallen. Then the bedroom door creaked open. Footsteps. A man entered. Tall, hooded. McKay. He crouched beside her bed, whispered something inaudible, reached toward her. Suddenly, a bark off-screen, loud, furious. Eco. The camera shook, crashed to the floor. Static. The clip ended. Marcus sat in stunned silence. Eco had chased him off. Before any adult knew what was happening, before the evidence was found, before anyone believed Sadie, Eco knew. He'd saved her before Marcus ever arrived. Later that night, Sadie climbed onto Marcus' lap and held out a drawing. It was Eco again, but this time his mouth was open wide, barking at a dark shadow outside her window. Inside, a small girl watched from under her blanket. Marcus studied the drawing. "You remember that night?" Sadie nodded slowly. "He scared him away." "Yes," Marcus said, kissing the top of her head. "He did." The rain started just before dawn, a quiet drizzle at first, whispering against the windows of Jenny's house, then a steady downpour that wrapped the neighborhood in gray. Inside, Marcus stood at the kitchen sink, staring at the backyard through the sliding glass door. His coffee had gone cold in his hand. Behind him, Eco paced the hallway like a soldier on patrol. In the living room, Sadie curled on the couch in her blanket fort, quietly humming to herself as she colored in her notebook. Marcus hadn't told her about McKay. Not yet. Not while she still flinched at the sound of the doorbell. Detective Carter had called late the night before with news. "We're pressing charges," he'd said. "Child endangerment, unlawful surveillance, conspiracy to commit sexual exploitation of a minor, the works. The feds are on board now." Marcus' jaw had clenched so tight it cracked. "What about Jenny?" he asked. "She's not being charged," Carter replied. "But she'll be investigated for failure to protect, standard in these cases." Marcus had nodded slowly. He hated that this was happening, but he hated the idea of doing nothing more. That morning, Jenny came back. She didn't knock, just walked in. Marcus turned at the sound of the door and saw her standing there, soaked from the rain, eyes bloodshot, face pale. She held a plastic grocery bag with trembling hands. "I brought her cereal," she said softly. "The kind she likes." Marcus said nothing. Jenny set the bag down on the counter, then looked around the house like it no longer belonged to her. Her eyes landed on the pile of printed footage, screenshots from the hidden camera, a court order tucked beneath them, a note from CPS on top. Her breath caught in her throat. "She was just a baby," she whispered. Marcus crossed his arms. "You didn't see it." "I did see things," Jenny admitted, "but I convinced myself they didn't mean anything. I told myself he was tired, that Sadie was being difficult, that it was just a phase." "No 6-year-old deserves bruises as a phase," Marcus said flatly. Jenny sat down at the table and buried her face in her hands. "I didn't protect her," she choked out. "I wanted so badly to believe I'd finally found a good man, someone who cared about us. I was so tired of being alone." "Marcus, you weren't alone," he said. "You had her." That stopped her cold. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Sadie peeked out from her blanket fort. When she saw Jenny, she froze. Jenny stood and took a step forward. "Hi, baby. I missed you." Sadie didn't move. Eco stepped between them. Jenny stopped. Sadie whispered, "Are you mad at me?" Jenny's face crumbled. "No, sweetheart. I'm mad at myself." Sadie looked down. "He said, if I told, you'd send me away." "No," Jenny cried. "God, no. I never would." Marcus knelt beside her. "Sadie, nobody's sending you away. Eco made sure of that." The little girl looked up, wide-eyed. "So, I'm not in trouble?" "No, baby," Marcus said softly. "You're safe now." She nodded slowly, and for the first time in weeks, she believed it. Later that afternoon, Marcus drove downtown to the sheriff's office with Carter's team to review formal charges. He left Sadie with Deputy Allison, a kind-hearted officer with a gentle voice and a pocket full of candy. Eco stayed too, his eyes locked on the front door the entire time. In the briefing room, Carter pulled up surveillance from the night McKay had returned to the backyard. "You were right to report this," Carter said. It was McKay. Facial recognition confirmed it. Marcus leaned forward. "So, he's not just some perv from Cal's past. He's active. Very. He's linked to a small ring operating out of 3 states. They trade footage. Groom access. Cal might be small-time in it, but McKay's a mover." Marcus clenched his fists. "Any sign of Cal?" Carter shook his head. "He's off-grid. We've frozen his accounts, issued warrants. If he surfaces, we'll know." Marcus looked at the screen. A paused frame showed McKay's face just before Eco barked him off. If Eco hadn't reacted, Carter said, she could have been taken. Marcus stared. He didn't just react. He knew before the door even opened. That night, Marcus found himself on the back porch again, staring into the darkness. Sadie was asleep upstairs, Eco curled at her feet. Jenny had gone home to meet with her lawyer, unsure if she'd be able to keep custody or even visitation. Everything had changed, but one thing had not. Sadie was still alive, still safe, still here. The next morning, Marcus woke up to a surprise. Sadie wasn't in her bed. Heart pounding, he ran through the house, living room, kitchen, backyard. He found her in the garage. She was sitting cross-legged beside Eco, whispering into his ear. Eco looked at Marcus when he entered, as if to say, "She's okay." Marcus crouched down. "What are you doing out here, sweetheart?" Sadie held up her notebook. "I was writing a book." "A book?" "Yeah." She flipped it open. The pages were filled with crayon drawings of Eco. One page showed him barking at the toy chest. Another showed him chasing a shadow out the door. On the last page, Eco stood in a field of flowers while Sadie hugged him. "What's it called?" Marcus asked. She smiled. "The dog who heard me when no one else did." Marcus blinked back tears. "That's a perfect title," he said. Later that day, they got a call. Jenny was requesting supervised visitation. Sadie looked up at Marcus. "Is it okay if she comes?" "You sure?" he asked. Sadie nodded. "She's sorry. I think she means it." The visit took place in the backyard that Saturday. CPS sent an observer, but Marcus sat nearby, too, pretending to read the paper while keeping a close eye on everything. Jenny brought a photo album. "These are from when you were a baby," she told Sadie. Sadie flipped through it quietly. There was one picture of her and Eco the day he was first introduced into the family. She was barely 4. Eco looked the same, solid, focused, protective. "I remember this day," Sadie whispered. "He sat in my lap and didn't move for hours." Jenny smiled. "He knew you were his." They sat together under the awning while the sun peeked through the clouds. And for the first time in a long time, things didn't feel so broken. That night, Marcus tucked Sadie into bed. Eco lay beside her, head resting gently on her legs. "Uncle Marcus?" she asked sleepily. "Yes, sweetheart. Can we keep Eco forever?" He smiled. "That was never a question. He's yours." She grinned, pulled the blanket up, and closed her eyes. Marcus lingered for a moment, watching, listening. The house was quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't come from fear, but from peace. The courthouse was colder than Marcus expected. Not the air, exactly. It was something deeper. The kind of cold that clung to your skin, that soaked into your bones. It was family court day. And the people in the waiting room wore that same hollow look. Exhausted moms clutching toddlers, fathers fidgeting with court packets, lawyers murmuring into phones. Everyone there was holding some kind of pain. Marcus sat near the window, a folder in his lap, Eco by his feet. The dog had been granted special permission to accompany Sadie in and out of hearings, something the judge called an exception for therapeutic support. But Marcus knew better. Eco wasn't therapy. He was truth in fur. He had become Sadie's only compass in a world that had lied to her too many times. Jenny sat across the room, her lawyer beside her, lips pursed in nervous silence. Marcus hadn't spoken to her much in the past week. Not out of anger, but out of necessity. He needed to focus. This hearing wasn't about blame anymore. It was about protection. And the truth was simple. Sadie didn't trust her mother right now. She trusted Eco. She trusted Marcus. That had to be enough. When the judge called the case, Marcus stood tall. Eco rose with him. Jenny stepped forward as well, wiping her palms on her skirt. The bailiff nodded toward Marcus. "Mr. Hale, you're requesting emergency guardianship of your niece." "I am, Your Honor." "Do you have evidence of unfit parenting from the child's legal guardian, Ms. Jennifer Hale?" Marcus didn't flinch. "Yes, I submitted all video footage to the court as instructed. I've also attached evaluations from CPS and Detective Carter's affidavit." The judge flipped through the folder, lips tightening as she read. "I see," she said flatly. "And you're requesting full custody pending the outcome of the criminal trial against Mr. Calvin Rivers?" "Yes, ma'am." She looked at Jenny. "Miss Hale, your response?" Jenny swallowed. I don't contest Marcus's request right now. I love my daughter, but I failed her. I see that now. I just want to be part of her life again when it's safe." There was a beat of silence. Then the judge nodded. "Effective immediately, Marcus Hale is granted temporary full guardianship of Sadie Hale. Visitation rights for Ms. Hale will be re-evaluated after court-mandated parenting classes and counseling." Jenny let out a quiet sob. Marcus didn't gloat, didn't smile. He just turned and saw Sadie clapping silently from the benches. A soft grin on her face. Eco licked her hand once, and she laughed for the first time in days. Outside the courthouse, the air felt lighter. Sadie ran ahead, her backpack bouncing as she raced toward the truck. Eco jogged beside her like a bodyguard. Jenny caught up to Marcus in the parking lot. "Thank you," she whispered, "for not shutting me out completely." He sighed. "I'm not the one you need to thank." She nodded toward Eco. "I know." Then she looked toward Sadie, who was climbing into the back seat. "She still draws him, you know," Jenny said. "I saw one pinned on the fridge. She gave him wings." Marcus smiled faintly. "That sounds about right." Back home, Sadie helped Marcus hang Eco's new photo on the wall. It was a framed picture of him in uniform, taken back when he and Marcus were an active K-9 team with the state police. Was he really a hero back then, too? Sadie asked. Marcus knelt beside her. "He always was, even before we knew it." She tilted her head. Does he know he's a hero? Eco looked up at her, tail thumping once on the hardwood floor. Marcus smiled. I think he knows you think so. That's enough. The following day, Marcus received a call from Detective Carter. Brace yourself, Carter said. Cal's been spotted. Marcus stood frozen in his living room. Where? An abandoned farmhouse outside of Winder. McKay was using it as a front property. Looks like Cal's been hiding there for at least a week. You got a team going in? We're organizing one now. Thought you'd want to know. Marcus looked toward Eco, who had already stood up. You're damn right I do, Marcus said. He didn't tell Sadie where he was going. He just kissed her forehead, told her Eco needed a checkup at the old precinct, and left her with Officer Allison for the afternoon. Then he and Eco drove north toward the farmhouse. Memories came flooding back of busts, of adrenaline, of dark hallways, and loaded chambers. But this was different. This wasn't about duty. This was personal. When they reached the farmhouse, Carter's team was already there, guns drawn, vests tight, eyes sharp. You sure he's in there? Marcus asked. Carter nodded. Thermal says yes. One body, moving slowly. Might be injured. Marcus clipped Eco's vest on. The dog stood still, ready. I'm going in with you, Marcus said. Marcus, you wouldn't be here if it weren't for my dog. Let me end this the right way. Carter hesitated, then nodded. Eco leads. The farmhouse was dim and damp. The floor creaked with every step. Dust hung in the air like fog. Eco's ears twitched. He was locked in, alert, hyper-focused. They found Cal in a back bedroom, alone, disheveled, wearing the same gray hoodie from the footage. When he saw Marcus, his face twisted, not in fear, but smugness. Well, he said, took you long enough. Marcus didn't speak. Eco stepped forward, growled once. Cal smirked. Still hiding behind your mutt? No, Marcus said. He's the reason you're going down. Cal stood slowly, raising his hands. You have no idea what you're messing with. Neither did you, Marcus replied. Until you messed with the wrong child. Carter cuffed him without a word. As they dragged him outside, Eco barked once, loud, final. And in that moment, Marcus swore it echoed across every inch of the farmhouse. Back home, Marcus found Sadie waiting on the porch. You took a long time, she said. Marcus crouched beside her. Had to finish something. Is Eco okay? He's better than okay. She smiled and hugged the dog, burying her face in his fur. He always comes back, she whispered. Marcus swallowed the lump in his throat. Yes, he said. He always will. It took 3 months for the court date to arrive. 3 months of therapy sessions, police reports, CPS evaluations, and long nights where Sadie still woke up crying. But Eco was always there. Whether at the foot of her bed or pressed against her back on the couch, he never moved until she calmed. In many ways, Eco became her voice, a voice she'd been too afraid to use for far too long. And now, finally, it was time for that voice to be heard. The courtroom was packed. Journalists hovered outside, snapping photos of the courthouse steps. Inside, law enforcement officers filled the gallery alongside child advocacy groups and K-9 officers who had worked with Marcus over the years. Cal Rivers sat at the defense table in an ill-fitting suit, his face blank. His attorney whispered into his ear, but Cal didn't respond. He hadn't spoken much since his arrest, maybe because there was nothing left to say. The footage, the reflection in the mirror, the camera installation traced back to McKay, all of it painted a picture even the best lawyer couldn't explain away. But this case wasn't just about evidence. It was about Sadie, and she was ready. When the bailiff called her name, Sadie stood from the front bench, clutching Eco's leash. The courtroom went quiet. Marcus stood beside her, hand on her shoulder. The judge, a woman in her 60s with gentle eyes, leaned forward and said, "Miss Sadie, you're very brave for coming today." Sadie nodded. "Can Eco come, too?" The judge smiled. "Of course." As they walked toward the witness stand, every person in that courtroom watched, some with admiration, some with quiet disbelief. A 6-year-old girl facing the man who had terrified her for months, walked with nothing but a notepad and a dog. Once seated, she opened the notebook. "I want to read something I wrote," she said softly. The judge nodded. Sadie took a breath. "My name is Sadie, and I was scared. I was scared all the time, but nobody saw it. Not even Mommy. I thought maybe I was invisible. But Eco saw me. Eco heard me. He barked at the toy chest and found the camera. He growled at the door when someone bad came. He barked so loud that the truth had to come out. I used to think nobody could protect me, but Eco did, and Uncle Marcus did. I'm not scared anymore." The courtroom was silent. Then the judge nodded. "Thank you, Sadie. That was very brave." Cal's defense attorney declined to cross-examine. What could he say? The verdict came a week later. Guilty on all counts. The sentence, 35 years without parole. And the state began building a broader case against McKay and the predator ring he was part of. Using Cal's emails, the camera evidence, and Eco's discovery as a foundation, Sadie wouldn't need to testify again. She had already told the world everything they needed to hear. In the weeks that followed, life didn't go back to normal, but it found a new rhythm. Jenny completed her parenting classes and began family therapy. She visited on weekends now, supervised, but sincere, always bringing new drawings to hang on Sadie's wall. Marcus officially adopted Sadie on a crisp October morning. She wore a navy dress with little gold stars, and Eco sat beside them at the judge's bench as the adoption was signed. "Do you understand what this means?" the judge asked her. Sadie nodded. "It means he's my forever dad." Eco received a letter that same week from the mayor's office. He was being honored. At the annual Heroes Among Us ceremony, Eco would be awarded the Silver Paw Medal, an award given to service animals whose actions directly led to saving a human life. Marcus read the letter twice, then 3 times, and when he looked down, Eco was already wagging his tail like he knew. The ceremony was held in the city park on a golden afternoon in early November. Leaves crunched underfoot. A large crowd gathered around a small stage decorated with American flags and banners showing silhouettes of working dogs. Marcus walked on stage with Eco. Sadie followed close behind, holding the leash. The mayor leaned into the mic. "This year's recipient of the Silver Paw Medal is a retired K-9 officer named Eco, whose instincts, loyalty, and refusal to back down uncovered a dark secret, one that helped rescue a child from danger." Applause erupted. Sadie beamed. Eco wagged once, then let out a single sharp bark. The crowd laughed, then clapped louder. The mayor bent down, clipped the medal onto Eco's collar, and whispered something into his ear that only Eco would hear. Marcus knelt beside him. "You earned it, partner." That night, they all sat on the porch, Marcus, Sadie, and Eco, watching the stars blink awake in the sky. Sadie leaned against Marcus's arm. "Do you think Eco knows he got an award?" she asked. Marcus chuckled. "I think he knows he did something important." She looked at the medal hanging around Eco's neck. "I'm going to draw that tomorrow." The way he looked up on stage. Marcus smiled. "He'll love that." She got quiet for a moment, then whispered, "Uncle Marcus, why didn't anyone hear me before?" He looked out at the trees. "I think sometimes people get too busy or scared or don't want to believe bad things happen close to them. But that doesn't mean you were invisible." It just means they weren't listening. But Eco was. Yeah, he nodded. Eco always listens. Inside, Sadie fell asleep early. Eco curled up next to her, tail wrapped around her feet, head on her pillow. Marcus stood at the door and watched them both. There was a time not long ago when he wasn't sure this peace was possible. When all he had was suspicion, an old toy chest, and a dog who wouldn't stop barking. But Eco had known right from the start. Eco heard what no one else could. And because of him, a little girl got her life back. Thank you for watching this true-to-life story here on my channel. If Eco's courage touched you the way it touched us, please consider subscribing to our channel to support more stories about the bond between animals and the people they save. Now it's your turn. Have you ever witnessed a moment where an animal sensed something a human couldn't? Tell us in the comments. We'd love to hear your story.